second topic for this panel is Challenges of the Lebanese Judiciary by Dr. Marie-Claude Najm. Dr. Najm is a PhD holder in private international law from Paris 2 Panthéon-Assas University, previous Minister of Justice from January till August 2020, professor at the Faculty of Law and Political Science, St. Joseph University of Beirut, certified associate from the French Faculty of Law, director of the Center of Legal Studies and Research for the Arab World, member of the Beirut Bar and legal consultant. Allow me as well to welcome Ms. Lena Ghannajeh. Dr. Ghannajeh is the Dean of the Law and Political Science Faculty at St. Joseph University in Beirut. Dr. Ghannajeh obtained her degree in law from Panthéon-Assas University Paris 2 and St. Joseph University. She was awarded a professorship at Lille 2 University in 1999, and she currently runs the section covering the law of Mediterranean Arab countries at the Société de Législation Comparée. Dr. Ghannajeh will be presenting her analysis on Dr. Najm's paper titled Challenges of the Judiciary Lebanese System. Again, before giving the floor to Dr. Najm, allow me to remind you our ground rules for the sessions. So we'll have 15 minutes for the author to present the paper, then 15 minutes with the discussant and the chairman, and we encourage again having more questions for the Q&A in the last 10 minutes. Dr. Najm, the floor is yours.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So maybe allow me, I believe in the principle of equality. So since our colleague Wissam got 20 minutes, so maybe I would ask you, if I'm not over in 15 minutes, to have like 2 or 3 minutes more. I know that this conference is in English speaking, but we agreed that it would be in French. But then after in the Q&A, I might answer in French, English, or Arabic as you wish. I forgot to thank also the organizers of this beautiful event. Challenges of the Lebanese judiciary, les défis de la justice libanaise. Vous savez que depuis l'intifada d'octobre 2019, jamais la justice libanaise n'a été autant sollicitée et à la fois autant décriée. Les slogans qui sont scandés dans la rue, vous m'entendez? Oui? OK. Réclament la fin de l'impunité, la lutte contre la corruption, la récupération des biens mal acquis. Et on sait tous que tous ces slogans sont condamnés à rester lettre morte sans une justice efficace et indépendante. Les magistrats libanais sont réputés pour leurs compétences, pour la qualité de leur formation.
Lebanese are looking for the quality of their formation. How can we explain that justice is to this point in a crisis, and it is the object of abusive generalization that serves only corrupted judges? Why, since many years, although we have good judges, we cannot reach a good judiciary, a judiciary that is respected and that is trustworthy? If we look at the judiciary context in the last months, the judicial files are overwhelmed by formal actions. Justice, so there are many people who are chased by the judiciary are covered by factions. I saw by my own eyes that decisions that were based on what political responsibles said or based their decisions on the will of responsibles or officials who are outside the state. So this consecrated impunity, this was transformed into a confessional fight, and so judges are attacked, and the file of Beirut port explosion is blocked for more than 6 months now. This is a very important file with a huge number of victims and people who are arrested.
Sans juge, c'est du jamais vu, ni au Liban ni
And
ailleurs.
this is
Le ministère public boycotte pendant quelques semaines les audiences d'une chambre de la Cour de cassation parce qu'elle a rendu une décision contraire à sa position. Les politiques, les médias, les réseaux
so the
sociaux
policies,
classent les
social
juges par
media
appartenance religieuse,
classify
appartenance
judges
confessionnelle,
according to
politique,
their
et présentent comme
religious
tels les cris de haine ou les insultes sans vergogne.
belonging
Et comment voulez-vous après cela que les gens se
and
présentent devant un juge et le respectent?
partisan belonging.
Le gouverneur de la Banque du Liban envoie un
BDL
courrier au procureur
governor
général qui m'avait été déféré pour protester contre les poursuites judiciaires au motif qu'elles nuisent à la réputation du système
was
financier et à l'intérêt
against
général.
the decisions taken by the judiciary.
Dans
Judges
comme un
are
combat de coq,
themselves
chaque
divided.
réforme appuyée et parfois
Some
instrumentalisée
are
par un camp politique. Et à la fin, le combat s'achève par un compromis,
supported
par une photo, par une
by
annonce
political
quelconque, sans que
parties.
nous n'ayons compris qui avait raison et qu'est-ce qui s'est
We
passé.
don't know who
Les
had
députés en séance
who was
plénière du
right
Parlement demandent, au moment du vote
during
de
a
la
plenary
loi sur la
session of the
juridiction
parliament
bancaire, de
regarding
supprimer l'article qui
lifting
permet
bank
de lever le
secrecy,
secret bancaire pour
and
les
when
enquêtes judiciaires, au motif clairement exprimé par cet
the
article
article
qu'on ne
tackled
doit
this
confiance
issue of
qu'aux
lifting
juges.
banking secrecy,
Des hauts magistrats du
the
Conseil
it was
supérieur de
said
la
that
magistrature sont
there is no
convoqués à une
trust in the
séance du Conseil des
judges.
ministres pour discuter des décisions judiciaires dans des litiges
When
entre les
some
députés.
judges were
Heureusement qu'ils ne sont pas allés.
were
Le président du
convoked to
Conseil
a
des
council
ministres
of ministers,
déclare publiquement
the prime
que si le
minister
procureur
declared
général
that
n'obtempère pas à
if
certains
the public
dossiers, il
prosecutor
sera démis de ses fonctions. Aucune réaction des
does not
institutions ne
interfere, he will
un
be
ministre
put.
qui n'est même
He
pas le
will.
ministre concerné,
He will be.
donc le ministre de la
This
Justice,
was.
donc pas le ministre de la Justice, soulève en réunion du Conseil des
So the
ministres
Minister of
le
Justice.
relèvement de leurs fonctions des 3 ou 4 plus hauts magistrats et les intéressés ne réagissent pas.
So the judges didn't react, and the visits are made to judges, but nothing happens, and so judicial institutions remain silent. I can go for long in this description. We cannot deny this situation. Let us go to the essential. Let us not remain in denial. Let us go to what is essential. Let us say that the crisis of the judiciary is one of the aspects that is facing the political, economic, financial and social system in Lebanon, which is a very bad system, and that is a dead system. From where to start? What are the challenges that we should face if we want to go from the to the structural issues and to try to find the remedies for the problems? I will try to be brief and will tackle the two main challenges that are faced by the Lebanese judiciary. The first challenge is modernization and efficiency that we deny. The second challenge is about independence. The first challenge, an efficient judiciary that is anchored in modernization. I wanted to start by this challenge. We always talk about the independence of judges, and how can we talk about independent judges if they don't have the modernization and efficiency tools, if we know that the Ministry of Justice is 0.55% of the state budget and it goes only to salaries. This is probably a deliberate dependence to not allow the judges to play their functions. Judges should be able to work in a decent environment and have modern tools and have their values in their scientific approach. And I'm not here talking about the judiciary. I'm talking about the common law Denis. So this is a task of regulating conflicts. It is a decent environment that is lacking. Now the judicial palaces are vacant. And also we have to take into consideration the depreciation of the Lebanese pound and the salaries that have no values.
L'ensemble des palais de justice du pays, de Nabati à Tripoli, est de 5 millions de livres libanaises par mois. C'était toujours le cas lorsque j'étais en
For example,
le département informatique ne comporte que 2 employés pour
the computer department has only 2 people for the whole Palace of Justice. We also need these efficient tools to work. We need an electronic link with the judicial police to take information from files instead of proceeding to redundant procedures, or we need this electronic link with the border police instead of waiting 3 or 4 days for the mail. We need a documentation service. These are things that are very important and that we never mention. We need to separate the tasks. All that requires changes that cannot be introduced during this hardship on the economic and financial level. The last point in this challenge. Our judicial system has not only developed the subjection culture, but also it needs to take the culture of jurisprudence, the culture of such texts that are discriminatory, and so the judge has to improve this even in a system that is a system of civil law. So since the first year of studies, we have to open access to all sources. So regarding this first challenge, we have to work on material tools for efficiency, and allow me to say again that if this rescue plan that was adopted in 2020, if it was to be implemented, I'm sure that the situation of the judiciary would not have been the same. We're not here to talk about this conspiracy against this law, but we are feeling this at all levels today, like 2020. The material challenges of the judiciary are the result of the huge financial crisis that is in the country. So we need a culture of scientific excellence, that also the training judges at the institute, and also we need judges to be encouraged and promoted for the efforts of scientific effort. And here we are talking about the second important factor, which is the independence of judiciary. When we talk about the judiciary of the independence, we have to be aware of 2 aspects. The first one is the judiciary system as a third power, because judiciary is not a sector. It's not a sector. It's a power. It has to function independently from the other authorities. The second factor is about the judges themselves, the guarantees that they should enjoy away from external interference, and these interferences are diverse, whether political or financial or religious, and also against internal pressure. Have asked young judges about the pressure or the interference that they were the object. I asked who calls you in the small or huge files? Who are those people who contact you? Politicians, religious people? In 95% of the cases, the answer was judges who are higher in the hierarchy. So this issue of independence of judiciary is blocked today, but if we try to see this problem, we are blocked by three main elements that are very important. First of all, it is related to our culture. It is the fact that the independence of judiciary is based mainly on the individual conscience of the judge. I've heard that the judge does not need a law, and so the judge must resist interference, and this situation actually is very important. And regarding, there's a very important document that was worked upon in 2005, and it speaks about this concept. And so for the judge to be independent and impartial, he has to count on his own integrity and immunity, and this charter or this document speaks about the moral courage of the judge.
We just have one more minute.
Okay, I'll take two and I'll finish.
So these factors are related to lacks of the judge himself or herself. Instead of tackling the problems of the judicial system itself. So instead of facing this machine, we speak about giving the judge the tools to face this interference. If the judge is, they say that we have to vote for this law. The second point, which is very important, facing the interference of the executive authority and the system of quotas in Lebanon. Of course, in Lebanon, there is the higher council of judiciary and the state council, etc. But we have to see if the criteria of independence are available themselves. So we have to work on this system, and this takes us to the designation of their members. It's a shame that I couldn't give you a lot of examples. Maybe we can talk about that later or in the discussion. We have to clarify the relation between the higher Supreme Council with the judges themselves. It is not the highest authority. It's not. It has a very important role to play, but it is an administrative organ that has the goal to serve the judiciary authority. The judiciary is independent from the youngest judge to the highest judge or the senior judge. The third element is to put away this relation between judiciary and the confessionalism of judicial judges by creating customs that have nothing to do with the Constitution and our laws, which is giving or granting the judiciary positions to confessions. And it's not only related to the higher positions, but to all positions. So, for me, this is the biggest lie. This issue of confessional quotas and confessional balance is a lie. It is used by the political class to interfere in the judiciary. The message is the following. If we have a certain judge of a certain community and faces a problem or wants to obtain a certain position, who are the references? So this favoritized the political clientelism, and so the lack of confidence. The same applies to the designation of the members of the highest judicial council and the members of the state council. So I have proposed that this criterion of rejecting the confessional allocation to be mentioned in the law, but this was just to highlight this practice. Those who want to face these practices and to be free of these practices are not only individual judges but also judicial institutions that play a very important role, a fundamental role. This is very important because judicial institutions have a very important role to play. We didn't reach this state only because of the political class. It is because of the whole society at all levels. It is because there are people who are leveraging the system, and because there are a lot of people who are silent about the situation. We shouldn't remain silent about the situation, and the judiciary, which is in the heart of the democratic system, should be able in this system that it is hard to get out of, to continue to work in parallel with something else and to change our culture. We have to amend our laws and practices, waiting for a progressive change of the system itself. And I think, as Karim said, if this revolution of judges is necessary, it is also necessary to save the state. What we lack in this country is a state. We shouldn't. We should always remember that this is the result of the absence of the state, and so the state must be reinvested. The state protects the citizens. It is a very long way and a very hard way, but it is the only way. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Najm. Just a small reminder that Mr. Alfred Badr is working on a graffiti near St. Joseph's Statue. Whenever you have time during the break, to visit them. Another reminder is that all the papers prepared by our authors will be posted on the website of the Citizen Foundation. You can find the website on the brochures between your hands. The third reminder, in order to give our public the opportunity to ask questions as much as possible, I will ask our discussants to limit the time of the discussion in order to give our public present here and over Zoom the opportunity to ask as many questions as possible and stay loyal to the timing. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Merci à Madame la Ministre Marie-Claude Najm qui a livré ici son...
Thank you so much. Thank you, former Minister Marie-Claude Najm, with all your experience and the burden you have shouldered when you were appointed as a Minister of Justice. Just to summarize what she has said, well, I would like to say that she highlighted this need for justice in the Lebanese society. And she highlighted as well two major challenges that are by which the justice in Lebanon is faced. First, of course, the scarce material resources due to the financial crisis in Lebanon, in addition to the lack of independence of the judiciary. So in these few minutes I have, and which I will respect, I would like to point out another essential and crucial challenge that could be summarized through an example Marie-Claude has mentioned. Actually, it's about the Beirut port blast. Marie-Claude has reminded us that such a huge tragedy that caused lots of death, casualties, injuries, and that destroyed a part of the capital should have witnessed the mobilization of all the institutions in order to facilitate the investigation and to withhold the public opinion until justice is done. Well, actually, all the families of the victims have been waiting for Judge Bitar, and of course, with more than 21 resorts, in addition to the change of the judges, in addition to other things have been, of course, constituting obstacles in this process. And unfortunately, most of the ministers and politicians who were summoned by the judge did not respond. Unfortunately, this atmosphere of indifference is really very has a very negative impact, and of course, I would like also to point out the violent crisis which is impacting the judiciary. And actually, the judiciary is not the only institution that is being affected by the crisis. It is also weakening institutions and even beyond the institutions. I mean, justice as a value, unfortunately, is disappearing progressively in our society, and we as civil society feel unable to change things. Well, I would like to say about the crisis of the imperative justice and also the crisis of the judiciary itself. Regarding the first level, I think that this crisis was not generated yesterday. It has been generated long time ago during the civil war, and especially during the agreement of the establishment of the Ta'if agreement. Do not forget that I mean the very huge burden and the repercussions of the war. And despite this, the law of 26th of August of 94 has protected the criminals and the perpetrators, and this is why most crimes have remained unpunished. No reconciliation commission has been established so as to establish or allow the
avec ses vertus de réparation, de responsabilisation et de pacification du corps social.
justice to be done. This is why, of course, we have, do not forget that we have heard a lot about the concerns about fragile stability of Lebanon. This is why we have witnessed a proposal that has been summarized Ozone so as to renounce to justice in favor of peace. Since 1991, this very dangerous equation has governed our life, and it has re-emerged after each assassination, after each tragedy. This is what happened in the aftermath of the assassination of Hariri when the establishment of the STL has created very severe tensions between Lebanese. And now we are witnessing the same after the Beirut port blast. Actually, no civil peace without clarifying what happened and knowing the truth. Actually, I think that this truth will impose itself on the financial crisis, and this is why we are fearing what Karim Bitar said when said about actually, if we have to assess the value of this sacrifice of the imperative justice, we need to analyze the whole situation, which actually prevented the establishment of a permanent peace without any justice, and which also deepened the culture of impunity and irresponsibility which has prevailed since the end of the war, and which is partly responsible of the financial and economic crisis. Instead of doing the opposite, unfortunately, our leaders are still manipulating institutions, and actually they have just done the opposite, because the logics of all militia have destroyed all our institutions, and the main victim has been the judiciary. And now, very quickly, just like all Lebanese institutions, the judiciary has been weakened by the interventions of the political political class intervention. And actually, this has created a very severe confidence or trust crisis in the judiciary, in the institutions, and actually the accusation of having politicized judges can be understood. And with this label of politicized judges, this why every judge, almost every judge, is being disqualified, especially when his or her work threatens this oligarchy. A kind of absolute relativism is shaking every judicial truth. Everything is falsified, everything is questioned, and everything is affecting the judiciary work and is ending, unfortunately, the principle of justice. The political class, which is directly responsible of this, of course, is taking wide advantage
Docteur
of this.
Najm, juste pour vous rappeler le temps.
Doctor,
Donc, on a besoin
just
aussi
to
de prendre
remind
des
you
questions.
of the
Non, 15
time,
minutes
the
avec
lack of
Mr.
time.
D'accord, je termine. Voilà, comment envisager l'avenir
How to foresee the future despite all this, just and before having a more positive conclusion. A law should be approved according to Marie-Claude. Of course, this will be a first step, however insufficient. The main problem of the Lebanese justice is much more, it's deeper, and actually its effectiveness is linked to the solution of the political crisis, which rely mainly on internal factors. The main challenge being faced by the Lebanese judiciary is the restoration of the culture of the fairness, of the justice, with, unfortunately, state institutions which remain strange to this idea. We know that the road is still long. We are right now in a very dark tunnel. However, despite the popular mobilization movement, which we called the revolution, and this is how we witnessed all students and university lecturers being on the street. However, the road is still long. We need to recover the ability of being shaken, of refusal, and to admit that this change process has just started and that we have had some minor victories, however, which paved the way to a larger victory. We should accept the ungrateful role of generations whose mission is to maintain the flame, however, without being sure of seeing the light, just like Samuel Beckett, who repeated that we should continue. We cannot continue, but we will continue. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Najm. As we are seeing over the screen, Mr. Alfred Badr is working on a graffiti near St. Joseph's statue. So during the break, you can visit him and see the graffiti live. Now it's time for question. Mr. Daher, if you have any question to Dr. Najm, and then from the public, either present here or over Zoom.
Très rapidement, je rentre là aussi en fin de match. Je serai celui qui a joué le plus de matchs avec le moins de temps possible. J'ai beaucoup de choses que j'ai soulevées, que ce soit dans l'étude de Marie-Claude ou maintenant dans vos deux interventions, Alena et Marie-Claude. Une chose, Marie-Claude, vous avez parlé d'améliorer les conditions du juge pour pouvoir arriver à une indépendance de la justice et une justice plus efficace. Un point n'a pas été soulevé. Vous avez parlé des conditions environnantes et vous avez parlé aussi des moyens matériels qui sont mis à sa disposition. Aujourd'hui, il y a un problème de subsistance par rapport à beaucoup de juges. Beaucoup de juges trouvent qu'ils n'ont pas les moyens de subsistance et les moyens nécessaires pour pouvoir continuer. Donc, ils quittent la magistrature et on perd énormément de juges. il y a une question fondamentale qui est la caisse mutuelle des juges et aussi surtout la caisse qu'aujourd'hui l'État essaye de reprendre des juges et donc il n'y aura plus d'autonomie financière. Donc je voulais avoir votre avis sur cette question. Une autre constatation concernant l'impunité dont la doyenne Madame Rannach a parlé et vous aussi Marie-Claude vous en avez parlé. Dans l'impunité on remarque au Liban que beaucoup de choses se font d'une façon assez ostensible. Donc les dirigeants donnent la possibilité ou l'impression aux gens que les choses sont en train d'avancer. Ils facilitent l'adoption de lois et des lois comme on l'a vu récemment concernant les lois anti-corruption. Ils facilitent des décisions qui sont adoptées par certains organes comme on l'a vu dans votre gouvernement, Madame la ministre, où vous avez adopté une décision très importante qui fixe une feuille de route pour pouvoir combattre la corruption. On voit que certains juges adoptent aussi des décisions ou d'autres juges qui sont bien intentionnés. Mais on arrive comme dans un jeu électrique de scalastique, là, les voitures qui passent, où il y a toujours une planche qui manque et donc la voiture finit par tomber. Quelle est la situation? Quel est le moyen? Qu'est-ce qu'il faut utiliser pour pouvoir répondre?
What should we use in order to solve this problem? Please go ahead.
Merci Karim pour votre intervention. Sur le
Thank you, Karim. Well, regarding the aspect of financial independence, well, actually, I did not have time to talk about it. This is crucial for the independence of the judiciary. Actually, this issue is not related only to the judiciary, but also strictly linked to the economic and financial crisis, and of course, to the whole political scenery, and of course with the oligarchy, which is the political class which is still ruling. Of course, we have also mentioned the media and religious leaders. Actually, I am convinced that before solving this issue, there won't be any mean. Of course, you have mentioned something I particularly like. Well, actually, judges have started resigning. Among the best, actually, of our judges have started resigning because of the lack of material resources and of their very insufficient salary. It is also something that goes beyond the material aspect. It's about the failure of the judiciary, the sad situation of the judiciary, and of course all this of course is pushing our judges to run away. Actually, of course, despite this, there are a few things are moving, and you have mentioned laws to fight corruption. Of course, some measures have been taken as well. However, all this is not sufficient because we need administration to let this work out. I think the only way out, because I think that we are in a dead end, how to rehabilitate the judiciary while still having a non-governance political class, which is based on clientelism. I think that just like Elena said, of course, we have to go step by step, slowly. We have no other choice. And everybody can, of course, reject this, move, work. I think that I have been misunderstood. Of course, I hold part of the responsibility. However, I was only alone, and I, of course, called upon judges to raise their voice. And finally, they do agree with me. So after saying all this, we should rebuild step by step. Of course, we need to do huge awareness raising, and unfortunately, the Lebanese population, with both tragedies, of course, unfortunately, the Lebanese population is believing anything, everything. They even do not believe in anything, unfortunately. So this is why this population can be easily manipulated, and this is why we are witnessing this totalitarianism. So we need a huge awareness raising, and the justice needs also to fight and should be supported by social elite. Of course, there is no magical solution, but this is the only way to get out and to continue rebuilding our nation.
Thank you. If we have Dr. Ganesh, do you have anything to add? Okay. Exactement. Exactement. Any questions from the public present here in the hall? We have already questions over Zoom, so I will be asking by Nadim Shahade. So he is asking about your opinion on the closure of the Special Tribunal for Lebanon. It's issuing another verdict on the 17th of June. There is also a trial for connected cases, which has been suspended, and there is a possibility of complete closure. Why is the judiciary not pronouncing itself in favor of its continuation?
Alors ça, c'est la question du TSL qui avait rendu, si vous vous en souvenez, en 2020, une première
If you remember, in 2 years ago, there has been one decision that has been very widely spoken about in the media. Actually, regarding the closure, it is about financial means, because the SCL is or has a high cost and needs to be funded. Half of the funding has been made by Lebanon and the other half by the international community. And because of the international, not only Lebanese financial crisis, well, actually most of the countries, of the funding countries, have already declared that they were not able anymore to move forward with the court, and this is why they set a specific calendar. So you have this financial side, and then of course here I go back to justice delay. Actually, the Lebanese population, either they are in favor of STL because they want to fight impunity, but some of them consider that STL is highly politicized, so there is no real convergence. So here comes once again the high politicization of the Lebanese population, and this is a wider problem.
One more question. You have spoken about reasons that are prohibiting judiciary inspection, which are political interference from one side, a lack of resources from the other side. So if resources were to become available, do you think that would accomplish a step further into judiciary independence if resources are available?
Alors, c'est une condition nécessaire, mais ce n'est pas une condition suffisante.
This is a necessary condition, but this is not a sufficient condition.
Okay, so the resources are a necessary condition, of course, but it's not sufficient, because the same thing, when we mention political will, you need to have the will of the judiciary to fight, to make this fight, and I don't know how to say this in English. I'm going to say it in Arabic. شو بعد عندهم يخسروا.
What else do they still have to lose? The judiciary is losing everything, just like the state.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public? Okay, I would like also to remind you that the paper of Dr. Najm will be posted on the website of the Lebanese Citizen Foundation. You can see the address on the brochure between your hands, and this is an opportunity to all of us to further pursue the discussion and the dialogue, our comments, our feedback, our questions regarding the papers, and any recommendation to update these policies. We'll get now 20 minutes break, and we'll come back to the third topic for this first panel. Thank you.